Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. How are you doing? I hope that you are awesome, because you are awesome. This is Dr. G, and today we have Dr. Karen Kaufman with us, and she is going to tell you about how awesome she is and all the things that she's up to.
So I'm going to take a moment to introduce myself to your audience. So my name is Karen Kaufman, and I am an allergist immunologist in private practice. And in the course of the last year, I had made plans to leave my employed position and move in the direction of opening my own solo allergy immunology outpatient practice. So I've been on a big journey of entrepreneurship, and it's been a very exciting ride, but I'm learning a ton of things as I go. But now we're about 2 months into our new practice being open, and we've already been able to provide expert care to over 500 patients, adults and children who have problems with allergies and recurrent infections. And these are also people who have medication fatigue and who feel like their stories aren't adequately heard. And they leave their doctor's appointments with lots of questions that are remaining. And these are the patients who come and find me, and we are able to kind of put the pieces back together and improve the quality of their lives and fix these problems for these patients. So we're 2 months in, and it's been awesome so far.
Awesome. Wow, that's amazing. Because it's always interesting when I get a patient in the emergency department and they have allergies to like 10 medications, and 9 of them are antibiotics, and they have an infection, and I need to treat them effectively. And so I always wonder, do you really have all these allergies? And so I appreciate what you do, because I'm sure that you're helping to kind of like delineate really what the allergies are, so that, they will have all the resources available when they need it. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, drug allergy is definitely a tricky one. And I think doctors in general who are not allergists really don't like to poke the bear on an allergy list, especially a long allergy list.
Oh,
They
yes.
kind of just want to put it over on the side and say, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. You need to go see an allergist, So actually it's interesting, because there are some allergies we have great testing for, or some drugs, that we have great testing for. And there are so many that we don't have testing for. And so it's tricky to kind of try and start to streamline that and to help people to figure out with medication allergy. And actually lately, one thing that's been happening a ton is patients who are having all sorts of different reactions following their first COVID vaccine, and starting to sort that out as far as, components of the COVID vaccines, and, who needs to be tested, what kind of testing is there. That's definitely become something that I'm getting more and more, comfortable with, because I'm having to do a lot of reading and a lot of, furthering of my own knowledge about these types of drug allergies to be able to help these patients and answer questions.
No, absolutely. Very pertinent what we have experienced now or within the last year. So no, that's awesome. And so,
Exactly.
So you are doing something pretty incredible, right? So you are in solo practice right now, and you are focused on young people. Is that right?
I would say a majority of my patients are probably between, 20 and 50, 20 and 60, something like that. Although I do see quite a lot of pediatrics as well. I would say probably right now, pediatrics is maybe a quarter to a third of my practice. And then it's mostly, younger adults for the most part that I see. But what's cool about allergy and clinical immunology is that throughout the lifetime, there are kind of different things that come up and different types of problems that people have, different in early childhood to later childhood to adulthood. And so every day is different. Every patient is different. It keeps it really, really exciting. I'm sure emergency medicine is similar as well. Like you don't know what's coming in the door, and then you get to kind of, get into the zone of whatever it is and figure that out. So, it's kind of like that too. My primary training was in internal medicine. So to be able to, get to become an expert in specific things about children, to me, was a huge challenge, and also one of the most exciting challenges. So I have great relationships with all of my patients, but in particular, I like to, I really like to dig into these pediatric visits because I feel like a lot of doctors just talk to parents and they don't really talk to kids. And I like kids to feel like, it's their visit and they're running the show. So, so it's very cool.
Oh, that's fantastic. No, that's great. Yes, I hear you. I mean, in emergency medicine, yes, we do get everything. And it's pretty like spontaneous. It's like, man, I don't know, like today I might have 3 of one particular kind of case. And then the next day it's like months or years sometimes before you see that thing again. So I can imagine. And then, for us, we get training in both peds and adult care.
Yeah.
But in general, we typically don't see like a lot of children unless you do like a pediatric emergency medicine fellowship.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I hear you. I hear you on that. I do
Right.
love it when the little ones come in, as long as they're not super sick, because that breaks my heart.
Right.
I mean, we do what we have to do,
Right.
but it really breaks my heart to see that. Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things where you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing. And so that sounds awesome. So it sounds like you really enjoy what you do. So thank you.
It is awesome. I love it. It's the perfect specialty for me.
No, that's great. That's great. And you know what? That is what I love about the fact that there are specialties because, like I and my like very short attention span, perfect for this job, right? That I do. But I
Right.
could not sit and like, do a deep dive into something for a long period of time and try to figure it out. Like, no, I couldn't do that. So I am definitely appreciative that there are specialties.
For sure. I definitely think there's something for everyone in medicine. And, as physicians, we all kind of, wiggle our way into where we fit best. And then, I think we're, much more apt to excel in those areas when, you take that personal interest.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so now we need to talk about the fear around stepping out on your own and starting your own, like hanging your shingle, so to speak, and like getting it rocking and rolling with entrepreneurship within medicine. So we want to hear that backstory because I know there is a great one there.
So my backstory starts probably in January of last year, where I'd finally come to the realization that I wanted to leave my employed position. And I'm surprised it took me that long to come to it because I had already been in this probably at a point for about 4.5 years and was experiencing significant burnout, the onset of depression. And I always looked at it like the problem was me and I just had to figure it out. And, I just wasn't doing it enough or whatever, whatever it was, I felt like that I was the source of why I wasn't happy in my job. And then, as I started to kind of figure things out, I realized, maybe it would be better for me to look for another opportunity. And it was the first time that ever kind of occurred to me. I have a prior background in military medicine. So, in military medicine, it's not like a job that you're like, oh, I want to leave this job and get a new job. Like that's your job, And so this prior position that I had was my first civilian position outside of the military. And I kind of thought like, well, you're just going to get hired somewhere and that's going to be where you stay, and like, why would you leave? So it occurred to me at that point, like maybe I should think about doing something different. So I started to kind of brainstorm it and I didn't initially think about opening my own practice. I thought like, well, maybe I could just join somebody else or, something. I thought, well, let me scratch my head and think about it. A great friend of mine is a local ENT surgeon And I thought, well, maybe I'll talk to her and see, I know she was a reasonably new partner in her practice. And I thought, maybe they may want to bring on an allergist immunologist, like that could be cool. So she and I kind of sat down and started to brainstorm. And the more we talked about it, the more I thought to myself, this is probably my opportunity just to open up my own practice. I never knew that was a thing for physicians now, like in this era. I kind of thought about like that, that old country doc who's taking care of the whole town. But I really didn't think that, in 2021, doctors would be in solo practice. But probably about 10 years ago or so, when I was in my fellowship, was the first time I really had that concept that allergist immunologists can very, reasonably do it. Our call is very easy, for me to take after hours call, my phone rarely rings. If people have a true emergency, they're going to see you, right? They're not calling me. So, and then I'll just see them in the clinic and follow up. I don't have hospital privileges. I'm not on an OR schedule, so these are things that we can manage ourselves. And so I had it in the back of my head, it would be so cool to open, a practice in the town where you live and serve your local community. And so, that kind of was always, there was that seed that was planted. So then I thought, well, maybe this is my time. Of course, all of this coincided with the beginning of the pandemic, which was just bad timing, I think, in general, but also maybe for me, good timing, because my boss had reduced all provider schedules to part-time. So I had extra time. I was home 2 days a week while my kids were, going to school in my home office. And so that was time for me to start the ball rolling to figure this out. So, I would say probably by, about a year ago from now, that was when I really started to get wheels in motion to say, okay, I'm going to really do this. I'm going to open my own practice.
That's awesome. I mean, think about, as you're saying that, there were so many potential obstacles that were in your way, and it just seemed like you seamlessly stepped over, walked around, punched through all of those obstacles to make it happen. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
You're making it sound a lot easier than it was.
Yeah, you probably don't even realize that, but it's like, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? The fact that, you had this block that you didn't even realize that you had, that was based on your prior experiences. And then you saw the possibilities and then you just went for it. Did you ever feel like, I wonder if this can happen for me? Did you ever feel completely afraid? Like, what if I never get a patient? And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but this is the things you think about when you start a business. You're like, am I going to get a customer? Am I going to get a patient? Am I going to have success? Like, how can I do this on my own? Like, did you have any of that angst when you got ready to pull the trigger completely on this?
Well, I definitely had fear, for sure. And I think part of that fear was the realization that I literally know nothing about business. I know nothing about having my own practice, and the learning curve is steep. And so I recognized that from the beginning, that, I have a long period of growth ahead of me and a lot of learning. So I really tried to kind of engage myself with as much opportunity to learn as I could from the beginning. And that involved kind of starting to listen to, virtual conferences. This was during the pandemic, so virtual conferences became a new thing. And I thought, okay, well, this one interests me and that one interests me. And so I listened to one, which was called the Back to Busy Summit, which I put a lot of credit there because this is a specific continuing, education opportunity for people in private practice, which, I've been in private practice, but I've never been on the business side of private practice, and I've never been on the ownership side of private practice. So getting to hear from a lot of these speakers was very eye-opening to, things that I really didn't know how good at it I would be. Like, for example, listening to a talk about billing coding. Like, okay, so I know how to code and I know how billing works, but am I leaving money on the table? Am I missing stuff? I felt like in my prior position, I didn't have a whole lot of, coaching or direction as far as, was I doing it the right way? So that was a concern that I had. marketing, which I knew
Oh my
zero
gosh.
about
Marketing
marketing.
is like insane.
It
So
is
what did you do?
insane.
What did you figure that out? Because I mean, that's like huge, getting people to come to your doors.
Well, as I kind of progressed through, like starting to realize where my deficiencies were and what I needed to learn, I decided that the way that I should really proceed is to, invest time in digging into picking the brains of people who already knew how to do it, right? Like I'm not the first person on the planet who's ever opened a solo practice. So let's like get in touch with all the people that have solo practices that I know and pick their brains. So I started to do that by reaching out to, other allergist immunologists whom I know who are in private practice. But beyond that, I connected with a physician business coach who has had her own practice for 10 years. And she was, wildly successful with that. So I thought, there's no point in attending the school of hard knocks if you can just like learn from other people's experience. And so I started to, align myself with people who knew what they were doing, soaking in their advice and just doing all the things that they said. Look, you really need to do this. Good, I'm going to do that. You need to really do this. Sure, I'll do that. Even the things that were uncomfortable, even the things that felt like kind of out of my zone. Well, this is the new zone. You got to get
Yeah,
in there. You
yeah,
got to just do it because it's your business. you
yes.
know and so you can't just hang a shingle anymore and cross your fingers and hope
Mm-mm.
that people show up. It doesn't work that way. And what I really realized is that if people don't even know you exist, if people don't even know you're out there, they're not coming to see you. They're never going to find you. So in private practice, to me, I sunk a lot of effort into doing a lot of my own marketing. I really didn't spend hardly any money on marketing. I mean, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be, creating those behaviors that are going to start to put yourself out there and allow people to know that you exist in the way that's going to be helpful to them. So that's what I did.
No,
That's what I
absolutely. That's
did.
fantastic. And I think, I mean, you said some pretty incredible things there because, you said one of the little pearls that you mentioned was, you realize that there are people out there who have gone through it already, and there's no
Yes,
need for you to have to go through it again. If they have, you can learn from their experiences. So that's fantastic. And then you also said that you got a coach. So you got a coach and that person helped you to get to the next level, which is another thing that a lot of times we tend not to want to get coaches.
for sure.
We're like, oh, they're expensive, all these things, but then we don't always think
Hmm.
about the fact that it's our time is very valuable. And so if we're able to truncate the time and get that exploded effect by
Right.
hiring somebody to push us through that, then it's worth it. And so, that's something that a lot of people I talk to are like, oh my gosh, I don't get a coach. But you clearly realize the value in that and are seeing the benefit of that. So that's awesome. And
For
then
sure.
the third thing that you said that was pretty awesome was that you don't have to spend a lot of money on marketing in order to
Hmm.
get yourself out there. So I'm
Yes,
guessing that you are doing things like live videos or you're doing things on social media that are getting you exposure and getting people to interact and be attracted to you without having to, have this ridiculous budget for marketing.
for
So
sure.
it's great. It's great that you're able to do that type of thing because that's not intuitive, right? And most people aren't willing to put themselves out there like that and
Hmm.
be in a new zone, as you put it, versus
Right.
kind of sitting back and waiting for things to happen. So kudos to you for definitely taking action. And those three actions were superb. And I have no doubt that they are playing into the role of your success currently and getting the word out about your practice. And then you're also going to share on this show your practice name and how people can reach out to you so that you can get even
Yes.
more exposure. So go ahead, Dr. Kaufman, let people know how they can reach you.
So I am located in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., and our town is called Vienna, and we border right into another town called Tyson. So we are in this great location. We're easily accessible to people on all sides of D.C. It's great. My practice is called Kaufman Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, and we see children and adults with allergies and recurrent infections. And I can be found on my website, which is kaufmanallergy.com, or on social media on Facebook at Kaufman Allergy, or on Instagram at dr.kaufmanallergy.
Awesome. Yay.
Yay is
You have to
right.
get that plug out there because that's
You
a
got
just a
it.
jam right there. So, we have to do that.
You
Okay.
got it.
All right. And so you have to let us know also a little bit more about hobbies, right? So, and we know you're a mom, right? Well, I don't know.
Mhm.
I knew you're a mom. I don't think the audience knew that, but
Well, I'm a mom.
she's a mom. Well, you did mention it. You mentioned about your son. So yeah, so you're a mom. And you're a physician, obviously. At one point you were in the military. So that's huge because I'm sure you had to do a lot of
Yes.
time management with that. Um, do you have any
Sure.
hobbies that you do right now outside of medicine and being a mom? Or is there no time because everything's
So I
like,
would say right now, my hobbies are charting
there you go.
and making sure my encounters are closed. No, I'm just teasing. Both my children play baseball and my husband is a coach. So I am definitely like the number one sideline mom fan of my
Nice.
kids and their teammates. So that's something I get a lot of joy from. And I'm so excited that it's spring because through the winter, it's like drop your kids off for their winter workouts and the parents don't go in. So I'm
Aw.
excited to get them back on the field so I can, get my enjoyment of watching my kids play and succeed on a baseball field. I was doing karate for quite a bit. My kids were doing karate and I was practicing with them anyways. So during the pandemic, my kids' karate organization was doing Zoom karate at home. So I started
Nice.
taking adult classes, which I don't have time for right now, unfortunately, but for quite a few months, I really enjoyed, the discipline and the learning with karate. So that was very cool. And I love to hang out with my family and unfortunately COVID's put a little bit of a damper on that. But we have, a really nice group of friends where we live here in Vienna. So, even just, getting together every once in a while on a porch or, sitting outside and, having a adult beverage with, some girlfriends is great, a great release for me. And, spending time with my husband and my family is just the best.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Creating those memories, right? Because those things are absolutely invaluable. Wow. No, that's great. Thank you for sharing all that. It's just really cool to hear that, if you are doing all the things, so you're a business person, you are a doctor, you are a mother, you're a wife, that you're not that's not all that you are. Like you have other things that you do, which is cool. And people need to hear that because I think a lot of times we think, particularly that we're a little bit robotic. Like, okay, so if you're a doctor and a mom, then you could never have anything else, right? But yes, you can have other activities, and sometimes those things can include the children, right? So you improvise. So you spend time with the children and you still do something that you enjoy so that you continue to be that Renaissance person that you were before you had them.
Exactly. And for now, during the pandemic on their, virtual days of schooling, they go to school in my office, like when you have a practice, you can put them in the back. My husband is helping out quite a bit, which has just been tremendous. I mean, he's just a huge asset to our practice as we're still working on staffing and trying to, get everything moving in the right direction. And so, it's like, well, if he's going to be here and I'm here, we just park the kids on their laptops with their headphones in the back office, and they go to school here too. So, they're all a part of it. And it's such a cool experience for my family to be able to, get this business going, to be able to serve the community where we live. It's just awesome.
It is absolutely awesome that they're also seeing their mom as an entrepreneur, right? So they're learning that they don't always have to be W-2 employees. They can actually be 1099s. They can start their own thing and they can do whatever they set out to do. So that is a physical example of inspiration for your children, which I think is amazing. So way to go. Way to go. Oh my goodness. So we have had such an amazing conversation, and if anybody's watching the video, you probably see me moving around out here. Like it started to rain and I have electronics. And so I was like moving underneath the covering on the porch. and then like my son comes out and he's like talking to my mom down over the balcony. And so there was a lot of things happening. So that's why I'm like moving around a lot. But hey, you know, this is very real life. So there you have it. So we have been chatting for an amazing amount of time, and we have covered some great things. You have dropped some great pearls that are going to help those who are listening to be able to identify their fears, conquer their fears, and realize that they too can overcome and emerge victoriously. So thank you so much for sharing all those pearls. And thank you for sharing your story. We have done all these things. And, you know, often people see us and we're at a point in our lives where we have gone through so much to get to that point. And so I really appreciate you sharing that things were not always super smooth and easy. You know, you had one concept of what things were going to turn out to be, right, you know, leaving the military, and then it turned out to be something completely different. You realized that, you know, the problem really wasn't you and how you were feeling. Like you still love medicine, you still love caring for patients, but it was just the venue was not the perfect one for you. And then you step out on your own, and that had its own, you know, not issues, but it had its own things to consider, right? Because you didn't have to do billing before. You didn't have to do, you know, all the things that you didn't necessarily think about prior, now become something that you have to learn about, the marketing and like all these things. So that's fantastic that you shared like the real deal on that. So we appreciate it. And so now we are at that point in the show. Everybody's got your info, so they know exactly how to reach you. Now we're at that point in the show where we do our fill in the blanks. So Dr. Kaufman, are you ready? You ready? You ready?
Ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Cool. All right.
Bring it.
All right. So the first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I will continue to push forward and create new opportunities for myself and for my family.
Awesome. The next one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
To me, fearless freedom means to always be open-minded and to continue to be innovative and think of new ideas to do things differently. You know, fearless freedom, I think, is such a cool concept in that there's such fear in so many things. So to me, that the ability to bring that freedom is to just create new opportunity. I think it's, and you know, to do it in a way that's very open-minded.
Sweet. And then last but not least, my battle cry is?
My battle cry is that hard work pays off. So you have to put in the work.
Amen, sister. That is the truth. Work hard and work smart. Absolutely. Cool. So thank you so much for come out of your busy day.
This was awesome.
It's probably afternoon for you, evening there. So I appreciate you. And the tribe appreciates you as well. And those that are local to you, I'm sure are going to check you out. So we're wishing you all the best and everything. And thanks for being on the show.
So. Thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.